Okay, good afternoon. This is Prajakta from IBM. I was supposed to have Robert here with me, but due to some last minute hiccups, he couldn't make it. And I'm going to try and fill in his shoes as well. His is big. So we're going to talk about how we are using Tekton to test our hybrid cloud products that we have in IBM. To give you an instance or give you an idea about how the entire product stack looks like for us, we have different infrastructure at the bottom layer. Then there is our cloud platform, which is our OpenShift cluster. We have the software, which is AI-based, the cloud packs, the Watsonx. There are other softwares and SaaS platforms and the different various services that we have. So we test across all of these. And to add to it, it's not just the platform which is a cloud, but it's also the Z and the Power, the other hardware platforms that we have. And there is an interoperability challenge as well, because there are so many products that we work with that we are going to test a good mix of all of these as part of our development process. So we add to this whole mix, right? There are different versions, there are different platforms to take care of, there are different variables that are there in this whole process. So it makes the test process quite complicated for us, given that we have to test the entire stack, right? From platform right up to the workloads. Talking about my team, I work for a team called IBM Fusion. It's the infrastructure that we provide for OpenShift. It comes in the flavor of x86 Z and Power. We run on that as well, and on the clouds. So for my team, we are going to test across all of these before we release. And as part of our work, we also write white papers, tell how things work, and so on and so forth. And then we do upgrade and resiliency tests as part of each of our releases. So to be able to do a test which spans across all layers of items that we have, right from infrastructure to software to the workloads that go up there, we needed some tool that will help us make things more flexible based on the environment that we are letting it or testing it on. So the choice came as to Tekton. Because our product Fusion is based on OpenShift, Tekton became a rather obvious choice for us, right? Because it's native to Kubernetes, it gives lots of the scaling capability that we were looking for. Moreover, it actually gave us the ability to run all our tests on that cluster that we had all of these deployed. And we were able to run the test right from the platform to the workloads. The other thing that we wanted was to have parallel processing ability for the test. Now, when I say parallel processing abilities, we wanted to run tests parallelly across all the layers of the product that we are working on. So how does my test scenario look like, right? My test, we have the OpenShift platform at the base, which is what the Fusion brings to the table. We will deploy the cluster, we have the storage, there are different cloud packs or other workloads that are deployed. Then the Fusion's own tests are actually run with the capability of backup and restore that's available there. Then the cloud packs, which is one of the workloads that we support, they have their own tests for the workloads that they do. On top of that, those workloads are running some other benchmarks or the tests that happen, right? What we are trying to do in that test is we are trying to qualify the entire stack of this test as part of our release, right? And it cannot be just done once. This has to be a repeatable process so that I am able to achieve the results across all the layers, right? Now, if you look at all of these, I have mentioned that we have different platforms or the automation tools that are used by each of the layers. For the platform, which is Fusion, we are using the Ansible, right? The Fusion's tests, right? The capability that Fusion provides, like the backup and restore, data cataloging, those tests are written in PyTest. The workloads, they have their own scripts that they use to write their test and bring their capabilities to the table. And the workloads, they are written in Perl or SQL, right? So what I want to do is I want to be able to test all of these, run these tests as a part of my QA process while I qualify the release. Now, how do I achieve this? So to achieve, we sat down and looked at what are our requirements to do a test like this, right? So the first one was to be able to support a heterogeneous tools. If you look at the stack, it did not make any sense to rewrite all of these, right, to be able to test. Each layer had its own set of tests, and it was only imperative that we just take that and use it to qualify the entire stack, right? So the first thing that they needed to do was to support all the different platforms or the tools for automation. While we do all these tests, right, we have to pass some information from one layer to the another, and there has to be an ability to pass that parameter from the lower level to the top or the top to the bottom, right, to make sure that our tests are running the way we intended to run. We also wanted to be able to have more control or a granular execution of the tests, right? So, for example, when I'm running a test to do a backup at the Fusion level, there is something happening on top, right, on the workload level. And we wanted to make sure that we are able to curate these tests and pick up which tests we want to run at any given point of time. So we wanted to make sure that we are able to pick and choose the test based on the platforms also, right, based on each environment. And then to qualify all of these stacks on the different platforms and the clouds, it just made no sense to do it in a manual way, right? It had to be integrated into our pipeline. So we needed a way that will integrate this and extend the CI/CD to CT, which is continuous testing, right? And that had to become a part of our pipeline. The next requirement that came was to be able to provide a delay between the tasks, because if we are doing something is happening at the top level, where say for example, a database is being configured, we would want to wait till the next test happens and add a delay in it, right? Or we would want to define a set of tests based on a particular environment, right? So if I'm testing on, say, a Power Platform, these are the tests that I want to make sure that are there in my test, right? And this, we would want to make it all a part of the pipeline, right? Instead of a QA sitting and doing all of these, can I do this as part of the pipeline itself? The pipeline understands what the platform is and then is able to pick some tests, right? So I wanted to have that ability to be able to curate those tests. Also, the important part was to have a floor and a ceiling for my test. So at a given point of time, when I'm testing, I want to think the way my customer would do, right? My customer workloads would continue to run, right? And that would tell me that if they are running, there are certain tests, there are certain operations always happening on the entire stack, and I'm going to test while that stack is running, right? That makes my tests more in line with how our customers are using it in real life, right? And if I'm able to test that way, that makes my product more resilient, right? So that was the thought. So what we did was we realized that Tekton can help us do a lot of these things, right? Particularly the parallel processing and being able to pass on information across these. What it also helped us to do is to be able to run the tests from different automation tools, right? So all that we needed to do was to write the code that could, push in or bring all of these together. So we wrote two little scripts to basically convert the PyTest. I'm taking an example of PyTest. The PyTest code, and it actually converted it into my Tekton tasks. And then, based on those Tekton tasks, there's another script that creates a Tekton pipeline. So my framework just gets ready rather quickly. So each of the teams, the team who writes tests in PyTest, can continue to write in their environment. And all that we need to do is identify that these are the tests that I want to be part of my run of this particular testing cycle. These scripts will automatically create the task, create the pipeline for me, take this pipeline to the cluster, my OpenShift cluster, and run it into the entirety, right? So I'm able to do that, and once that pipeline is ready, all that my QA needs to do is to do any manual task that is needed, right? If they want to increase or decrease the delay, if they want to restructure the whole test, right? If I'm doing, as part of this whole process, if I'm doing 2 tests in sequence, but they realize that can be done in parallel, that's all that the change that they need to do, right? So it saves a lot of time for my QA to be able to get those tests quickly running in the entire pipeline. Now, I'm showing you an example of PyTest, but we're working on getting this added for all the other automation tools that we have, like Selenium or Ansible, like I said. So all of this, as I see this coming together, right? At this point of time, we are at the stage where we are done with the PyTest part, and we are getting to the other ones. So I see our QA actually using this to build the test that they want for that environment based on whatever is already created. So my QA is starting to become more efficient with this. Also, this runs on that particular cluster. So it's right there running on that cluster. So the processing time is faster because it's not going to any server, and the communication or the network lag is reduced to quite an extent. And I'm able to define the tests based on the environment that I am in. Like the QA is able to specify that these are the tests that you can pick up for, say, platform Z, or these are the tests that you can pick up because you're doing it in Azure or you're doing it in AWS, right? And the way we want to take this forward, and which is work in progress, is we want to take this and say that these are the list of pipelines that are already available for you, right? Because we built them for a platform, you can take it and start playing around with them, right? So we have we've reduced the task of the QA to be able to write those pipelines all over again to test in an environment like this. So that's. Oh, did I finish it rather quickly? So the observations that we have is Tekton is able to help us actually integrate the heterogeneous automation tools, where we are able to convert all the tests that are existing to a pipeline in Tekton and run them based on those environments. Okay. And the orchestration has become really simplified because we are able to orchestrate now. If you look at the Tekton orchestration console, the pipelines basically, it's just a drag and drop, right? So all that we need to do is all my tasks are defined in a pipeline. You define how you want it to run, right? And that's all the QAs need to do, making our test cycles a little, quite a lot faster than before. Yeah, that's what I wanted to cover. Yes, yeah, that's what I wanted to cover. Yeah, we're open to questions if there are any. Yes?
Do you have code samples posted on any of the repos or just internal IBM?
At this moment, it's internal IBM, but shouldn't be that hard.
Well, just to follow your slides.
Yeah, I mean, this code is not.
Well, the workflow makes sense.
Yeah, the word I can share that.
Actually, is that to do it instead of
Yes.
So this test you were conducting, when are they being run usually? Like what events?
So when these tests we run as soon as our CD phase is over. So the way we work it out is as soon as our builds are done, which is our CI is done, and we go to the CD phase. As soon as the CD phase is done, we want to start running these tests right there, right? And to be able to do that, at this moment we are going back to the team to say that the infrastructure is ready, it's all deployed, now you can go start testing. So what we are doing is we are integrating it into the pipeline, which extends from CI to CD to CT, the continuous testing, and that once it finishes, it actually starts the next phase of testing, where it identifies that this is my environment, and on this environment, these are the tests that I can run.
And does it run it, as you said, continuously, or is it some like once a day, once a week?
It's currently once a day. It's currently once a day. Especially on the platforms that we have on-premise, which is a hardware-based one, right? So it takes time to get all of that in place.
So you the product is an infrastructure, right? So the teams are I need a cluster, and you provide them with a cluster. These clusters that automatically keeps being tested every day, even if it's not being changed. You keep doing all the testing, performance testing.
So we provide an underlying OpenShift cluster and Fusion on top of it, which comes with its own capabilities of backup and restore and data cataloging. And then on top of it, we will, our customers put in their own workloads, and then they run their own tests on those workloads. So, like I showed this time.
Yeah, but you're not responsible for those other tests.
Yeah, we're not responsible for that, but we want to do our quality assurance in a way that we mimic what our customers are doing. Because being at the infrastructure level, if I just stop at testing my infrastructure and it doesn't work for the customers, right? What's the fun?
I know you had like categories like we do this kind of stuff, but what are those tests testing? Are they testing I think you mentioned like the DRs or the DI and some other stuff. So is it like my cluster will keep performing, or you just looking at the performance of the cluster overall? Because like, why do you need to know what your customers are doing? That's like, is it generic and you can just give it to all the customers, or is it specific depending on the workloads? So that's what I'm not really clear.
Okay. So we at Fusion, right? It's a backup and restore and the data cataloging ability that we provide, which is the infrastructure that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
So the underlying infrastructure is OpenShift platform, and we have Fusion on top of it.
Yeah.
And we test the Fusion part, but we also want to test what our customers are doing, right? Now, when I provide you a backup and restore capability, I want to ensure that your workload is able to do, right? I'm able to back up your workload and being able to restore it for you, right? So I'm going to do that. And in my customer scenarios, is what we see is they're not doing this while nothing else is happening on their application, right? There are tasks and there are things that are happening on the application as well, while the backups or the restores are happening underneath. Right? So the backup is happening, say, every night, for example, right? But there is people who are accessing the application even while that backup is happening.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to test that because that's the feature that I bring to the table, right?
Okay.
So you said you are using like PY test and it's getting converted in the
Tekton tasks and backups. Yeah.
So how you are converting that? Is it some inbuilt feature in Tekton or?
No, it's not an inbuilt feature, but we've actually written a script that can convert it to a task.
And you're doing this, if I understand that, I have no familiarity with Tekton. I've never used it yet. But you're doing it, but from what I heard, you said for the observability and easier management, and like, well, now I see my task is already here. I can, if I need to stop it, or restart it, or retry it, I can just do it using the Tekton UI. That's correct. Okay, that's my understanding is correct. Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would actually mean that my QA would have to write that entire task and pipeline for that particular cluster every single time, or I have to make it a little more generic for them and keep it somewhere, like in the source code, and they then modify it based on whatever their needs are, right? So with this kind of an approach, I'm making it simpler for them, right? So that the learning curve for them is much less, right? Because my test team would typically be very proficient in writing a test in PyTest, for example, right? That's how they define their tests, right? They write their automation in PyTest. Now, to bring that to Tekton and having them to use it on the clusters and in that environment, it's tricky, right? So what I'm providing is an approach. So you write your PyTest or you write your Selenium test, we will help you convert that and into a pipeline that can be run, right? And if I start to look at it a little more future, right, can I do this in an automated fashion based on my environment, right? If I am on this particular cloud, these are the tests that I can automatically pick up as my base tests and run them, right? And then on top of that, my QA can do additional tests.
It's interesting because many discussions with the technical community about the Python like higher level DSLs.
Mhm.
Because people is allergic to learning YAML. I mean, Tekton is very formal in its definition of
Yes.
bypass because it allows you to ensure that all parameters match, all the work, show all work areas match and everything, but it's a bit verbose and it's so I guess that's the type of problem that we're solving with this illustration. But yeah, it would be interesting maybe we can have some conversation with the technical community to see if
Sure.
there's anything we can do on the technical side to
Yep.
help you with that
Yep,
specific
yep.
problem. Yeah. Thanks.
Well, I'm just again wondering. You said you converted them to Tekton scripts. Would it be the similar thing to say like you write a library in Python, which
Mhm.
execute the like either convert to execute stuff on the fly and then connect it to Tekton, right? What's the difference here to provide a Python API for the folks to call that from their Python test versus what, because how does the test look like? I need to start the task, I need to do X, Y, Z, and iterate it. So at the end of the day, you still need to execute the task somehow in the Tekton script, right? So,
Mhm.
or you mean like what does it mean you translating them? Do you like take the Python code and say, this is iteration and this is how it's going to look in YAML or in Bash or
So the way we do it is you provide me an input of the PyTest. It could be the entire folder that you want to convert.
but what do those PyTests do? What
So they perform different tests, right? Some
Sure.
of them could,
I
so-
hope so.
yeah, I mean, some of them could actually do, setting up of namespaces, for example, or some of them could actually be doing a backup of the application.
How does it do it? Does it do it by doing some process and calling some tool, or does it call some API which runs on a local host? Or
Yeah, they do it with the APIs that are provided by the underlying product.
okay.
It's
Right.
a black box, essentially. I think that your team doesn't care what it is. It's
Yeah, I mean, yeah, essentially, yeah.
It's a black
To me, it
box.
doesn't, I don't care what they do and how they do it, right? But they want to run those on my platform, right? Because I care that it works on my platform.
So are you wrapping the PyTest script to be able to run it on the platform, or you convert
No,
it?
I'm converting them into tasks such that I just read in their business logic and put it in the YAML file.
But you need to parse the logic, right? So you parse it in the Python file. You understand.
Yes, so
You understand the syntax.
to give you, for the PyTest, it's pretty well written. Well written as in it's got a pretty decent syntax,
Mm.
which says that this is how you write a test, and anything between this is your business logic.
Sure. Yeah.
So I pick that and make it my YAML task for the YAML for the task.
But I mean, you have to have pretty good understanding of what it's trying to do. Like,
Yes.
That's what I'm
I
trying,
mean, of course.
that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I find it hard. Like, isn't it easier just to provide an API and user say, by the way, run this PyTest on the call the task. Again, I have no idea about any of this. Like,
So
I'm
on
very familiar
on
with PyTest.
Tekton, we are not able to do that directly. So just to call that, we still have to write it as part of a task. So even if I have to call that PyTest directly in a task, which I can do for sure, but I still need to write that task. So what I'm trying to do is, get that task in place, and then get even the